And welcome to Life Support Live, the special podcast that explores how Star Trek can help us to boldly go in our own lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity. Oh no, Larry, I can't hear you. Give it to me one more time.
You know, it does occur to me that I have heard that. I've not heard that in quite a while, but it does occur to me that a famous starship captain once said those very words, like another famous starship captain once said, wherever our mission takes us today, we're going to have a little fun along the way.
Hello, everyone. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu.
And I am Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, and one of us is a real doctor.
And we'll leave it to you to figure out who that might be. Dr. Trek, it is good to see you.
It is so good to see you. I was going to say only one of us is a real doctor, but I think we are both. Neither of us are faking our excitement about being back here today with everybody.
No, you don't need a doctor to say that. And hello to our lifers and everyone at Virtual TrekCon. This is a very special episode, Larry, that we're doing today.
Well, it's if you couldn't read, for one thing.
Let me take a look. Yes. Oh, see? That's what we're doing. Okay.
See how special? Yes. Back on the right side of the bed again. But no, it's Virtual TrekCon. It's special. But this is our first. We threatened everybody that it was not the end of the show that we did for 2 years in pandemic, starting in April 2020. Running for 2 years, basically, with only a couple of missed weeks. And we said we'll be back live, or we'll be back dead or alive, or we'll be back in the
We'll do it live! We had, Larry, we've been off the air for almost a year now.
Yeah, about 10 months.
I have a second child, which is one of the reasons why we ended the show. He is now getting close to 9 months. Wow. A lot of Trek has happened.
I was going to query you. What has changed since we were last?
I was just thinking about this. So a lot of interesting things have happened. So we had a whole second season of Star Trek Picard. We had a whole season of Star Trek Discovery. We had a whole season of Lower Decks. We had the completion of a season of Star Trek Prodigy. And now, the weirdest thing happened, Larry, last night. You know what happened?
What happened?
My NCC 1701D era Starfleet issue communicator badge, it started beeping. And
I told you got to change the batteries.
That's what was going on. That was going on. It miraculously stopped beeping as soon as I turned on Paramount Plus for the season premiere of the third season of and final season of Star Trek Picard.
Well, before we go any further about unleashing our own personal logs here, maybe, because I can do that too, but maybe we should tell everybody. So we've got a lot of lifers. I haven't even got to look at the chat because guess what, gang?
The gang's here. The gang's back together.
Changed. One thing that's changed is I'm producing the show now because
that's true.
We've gone to restream from eCam.
I get to sit back and relax. Hey,
Ali gets to be footloose and fancy free, and I'm the one jiggering with all the controls over here. But hopefully I'll keep an eye on the chat. It's so great to see all of our folks over there. And somebody I see, Linda's already mentioned it. Yay for Life Support Live.
Yeah.
And you may see, if you're new, if you're coming into us from Virtual TrekCon, you may see there's the drinking game. Okay. We don't
I forgot. I forgot about
overdue. They're not going to let us forget. Are you kidding me?
Oh, one of the lifers has got to share what the drinking game is. Larry, I see a lot of old friends here. Tim's here. Glenn is here. I saw Scott. I saw Linda. The comments are just pouring in. Jared is here. Jared, good to see you. Oh my goodness. It is Charlotte. Charlotte is here.
Linda's
Larry,
here, Scott's here. David, and a lot of people came to my Trekland orbit through Life Support Live too.
And we've got a lot of new folks from Virtual TrekCon, which is amazing. So, Larry, let's calibrate.
Oh, what is this thing we do? What is this thing called Life Support?
This thing called Life Support Live. It's not weekly, but it's still sublime. I don't know. Larry, what is this grand, every now and, you know what happened? We went from like a weekly original series style airing to now more of a movie release schedule. That's what we're on now.
Oh, that's what we're doing. Yes, we've graduated to movies. Is that what happened?
Yeah. We are.
I used to say they did that to reward the original cast.
Well, our paychecks have not significantly increased here. But Larry, let folks know, what is this? What is Life Support Life?
Well, all this time and you still don't know what we're doing. Okay.
I'm trying to figure things out.
You always used to ask me. No, so we are trying to do. This started in the pandemic. This actually started as a panel idea for WonderCon, and when WonderCon was wiped out, like everything else, in the spring of 2020, one of us, real or fake, doctor said, why don't we do this as a because at the time, everyone that I was working with, our entrepreneur and our business circles, were saying, what do we do? What do we do in the shutdown? It's like, just go serve your communities, go serve your people, and we'll get through this. Yeah. And so we said, let's make it not just a podcast, but a live stream. And we learned a lot of stuff very quickly.
Yeah.
And the way we had it, anyway, we came at, what was it, like April 2020? And
yeah, towards the end of April 2020.
Because Ollie and I had met each other on the con circuit a couple of times. He's in the Bay Area. I was in SoCal here, LA. And we thought, what if we do a mashup of Star Trek and mental health? You know, nothing to be, I used to say, nothing to have a pop quiz over. Yeah. But we would mash that up and have, you know, we would geek out and also maybe have some helpful takeaways every week, but nothing too severe. And then lo and behold, we started realizing we were, and look at the whole breadth of the legacy shows, whatever was new. But then we got into periods where we would have new Trek every week, and we would kind of orient the topic to that. But it's amazing we've come full circle, because our original panel idea was going to be on, what was it?
It was Star Trek Picard. It was season 1 of Star Trek Picard
and trauma.
Yeah, and that's where we had finished, or Star Trek season 1 Picard had just finished. We were going to do our panel. We started the show doing that, and here we are now. With season 3 of Star Trek Picard. You know, Larry, we started off the show with that idea, and what we didn't anticipate is this community that would build around this idea. And I've heard from a number of folks how just having that weekly time to look forward to helped. Some of the tips helped. Some of our watch-alongs helped. We would
watch-alongs. Yes.
We did these live watch-alongs, which was a ton of fun. We made it
not with new shows, but with some of the features.
And episodes. We did some episodes too. We did holiday specials, and all those episodes are on our podcast. Or they're on our podcast as well as your YouTube channel and your Facebook page. Trekland on Facebook and Larry Nemecek on YouTube, if I'm remembering that right.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep. So you can check out the back catalog.
They're easier on YouTube. Facebook is not set up for archiving. So
yeah. They need to work on that.
Subscribe.
But yeah, if you're new and you'd like to check out some of the old stuff, yes, Charlotte, happy music.
I was going to say
you're a little late for the happy music, but feel free to rewind.
You're good to celebrate the happy music anytime. Yeah.
So, and with that, we have a brand new topic. Larry, should we open up that briefing room?
Oh my gosh! You mean here's my cue to do the new thing?
Let's see.
Ready?
It's coming.
Hey,
folks! There. Look at that.
I did it. And I got us back. Yay.
Mwah. Love it. Let's open up that briefing room. This is the time in the show where we explore today's theme as it relates to Star Trek stories, the stories we know, the stories we love, and the stories we're currently discovering.
And
today's
we want
theme.
Everybody to pop in the chat. And here's the thing. So I'm going to depend on you to call out people, and I'll pop them up like we used to do.
I'm going to call them out.
Call them out.
I am Scott.
Headmaster.
I see you. Galinda, I see you. Hi, Kyle. Yes.
Give me a time so I can find it quickly. So
I'm just calling them out as I see them. Robert, it's so awesome to see you again. Live long
names, but that's cool.
Yeah. Long live Life Support Life, he says. Okay, not hailing frequencies open. We're closing those frequencies. Larry, this is the part of the show where we connect new stories, old stories, current stories with a theme. And today's theme is Identity Reimagined. Do you want to introduce a theme, or should I introduce it? You
and
want to go
now,
for
everyone, here's today's theme: Identity Reimagined. Let's have a big hand.
There we go. Behind curtain number 1. I like that. So we wanted to do something that was based on Star Trek Picard Episode 1, which just premiered last night. We know some of you, especially those of you in Europe, probably don't have access to it.
Hey, yay to everybody across the pond. Everybody, if you didn't know, we set this. Oh, can I back up 1 second?
Please, back it up. Back up that starship. Fire those aft thrusters.
You can back out of that new space dock just as easily as you can get it in, I'm sure.
That's true.
Who needs an extra nacelle or whatever? A complete nacelle. No, I wanted to say that one of the things I've always done, and we did with life support, the one thing that's a little different today, well, a lot of things are different, but one thing is our normal day was Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific, but we did it Saturday just to have more audience. And yes, we're Friday today because of the virtual TrekCon schedule. So Saturday wasn't available, and Saturday wasn't available to me because Gallifrey is a live convention this weekend that I'm at. But we're losing some folks. But one thing I know is we're in the evening in Europe. And once again, I'm sure we'll have a lot of I think I've been seeing some of them popping in. But I know we've got some folks across the pond. So
Christoph is here, and Christoph says, we have access now. We have access.
Yes, they do.
Picard is now on Prime and Paramount Plus. So they have Paramount Plus now over the pond. It's
you've been see something else that's changed. Yeah, they've got it. And the big debate was whether that they held up everything else to get it on there, and they were promised a debut of something, Discovery Season 4, and then they had to wait on 2 days' notice. And anyway, it was a big mess, but it's gradually, the growing pains are getting there for all of
the big debate. Is that sort of like the grand experiment, the Excelsior at X2000? Put those seatbelts on. We're going trans-war. Buckle in, folks.
And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bathtub? What the hell was that? Okay, anyway.
I'm 100% sure that's not the line, but there's truthiness.
It was a line. Hey, I can refer. If Terry Batalis can refer to movies constantly, I can too. So, okay.
There's definite truthiness to what you said, but there's a truth to it. So we know, folks. Today. Some of you might not have seen Star Trek Picard. We're taking a lot of the essence of this final season of Star Trek Picard. Specifically, we are meeting a lot of what's now affectionately known as legacy characters. We're talking about Picard, Riker, Troy.
You know why we call them legacy characters?
Because my mic flipped upside down? Because what?
Because it sounds much better than saying the old characters.
Right. Well, we're meeting.
That's not new. We've been saying that in Pod World for 5 years now or something, because nobody wanted to say the old,
Yeah, we're going to see
Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Now we have to apply.
Right. They are those old scientists. Then, we're going to see Worf. We're going to see Geordi. We're going to see some kind of lore thing. We're going to see
lore about lore.
Yeah. Who else am I missing here?
The hologram.
Yeah. We're going to see, so we're going to see, and Seven of Nine, she's not legacy. I don't know what she is. Is she legacy?
From the same era. She's just from Voyager, but Seven's been on the show all along.
So. Right. So, and we're going to see Rafi again, but the point is we're seeing these legacy characters. See
General Chang's daughter. In another
right. Yeah. That's true. So we're going to see these legacy characters, but not as we know them, Jim. We're going to see them in a new way. It's been 20 years since we last saw them. Who they are, their identity has not only been reimagined by the writers, but in the context of the story. And in particular, if you see the first episode, Picard and Beverly have not seen each other in a long time. They're in very different places. That's who I was missing, is Beverly.
Beverly hasn't seen anyone. No one has seen Beverly in 20 years.
Yeah.
Which strikes a chord with after you're out of college and you've got a few years on you, and then they pile up, and I don't know, things like kids arrive and stuff distract
those pesky parasites. Them. I was just putting my kid to sleep. I don't know if you can see the drool marks, but he was drooling all over me.
Maybe that's what was making your comm badge beep.
There you go.
You were shorting out. No, I mean it struck a curve. Struck a nerve. Struck a curve. Yeah. No, the idea that this is the thing, and I want to get into this.
Yes, please tell me about the thing.
But Identity Reimagined can also be about groups. It could be about fandom.
Totally.
It could be about our image of the characters, but our image of the franchise. And I think like one thing that I've talked about since that hallowed day in 2015 when they announced Discovery was coming without a name yet, there was a whole new paradigm of fandom experiencing Star Trek, which a lot of people didn't. I knew it would be different, but we just had to live through it. Everything from paying for Star Trek, through streaming and what streaming even looked like, to what serialized storytelling looked like, to what animated looked like, to what, now we're having a return to standalone with Strange New. So it's like, we've been through a lot the last 5 years.
Larry, do you really need to abbreviate or shorten Strange New Worlds to Strange New?
I either call it Strange or Strange New. I have some kind of a genetic disorder. I cannot call it Strange New Worlds.
It's so short. Strange New Worlds. Strange New. I mean, is it really saving you?
Strange or Strange. I'm sorry. Just get over. Hey, I'll watch a Kelvin movie with you if it makes you happy.
That would make me feel better. It's been a while since I've seen Star Trek Beyond.
It's hard for me to say worlds. 3 new. I know. SNW is so many syllables, it doesn't help.
So there's a fandom element that you just mentioned too, which is I think this is going to be one of the big things we're going to be talking about as Star Trek fans watching this new season of Star Trek Picard.
Yes.
Let's just start with we know about Worf through the previews that he says, I'm a pacifist now. Mm-hmm. I practice pacifism, whatever the line is. And
here's my new sword.
Right. Here's my pacifism sword. It's not like a batleth. It's blunted. It's more peaceful.
You know the story about Mini K3?
Please. Let's do a Mini K3 all year long.
A Mini K3 on this is that sword has a name. It was designed like the batleth, like the mechleth. It was designed by Dan Curry, another legacy person they've pulled in, Dave Blass. The production designer pulled in, and the sword is named a Curleth. Dan Curry.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Okay. Please proceed.
So
Governor.
Glenn says I just pronounced Strange New Worlds acronym as SNEW, as in the past tense of snow.
It's like I say STID for Into Darkness. Yeah.
All right, there we go. You say STID? Sounds like
it's part of my love-hate thing with.
That sounds like some type of gastro problem.
That's your problem, not mine.
Okay. So I think we're going to be talking about this all season long. And if we just look at Worf for a moment? Would anyone object to us looking at who the most Star Trek actor of all time character?
Whoopi Goldman, as Whoopi Goldman, her secret sister to Whoopi Goldberg, pointed out on The View. If you on YouTube.
Yeah,
she pointed out the fact for a mundane audience, wide audience, that Michael Dorn, Worf, is the character most depicted in Star Trek. Like
what's funny is anytime there's a Star Trek Picard premiere, I always tell my wife, I'm like, hey, sweetie, we need to watch The View today. And she says, what? And I'm like, well, Patrick Stewart's on, which was season 1. Season 2, or season 1, Patrick Stewart was on. And then he asked Whoopi Goldberg, will you be on season 2 with me? And then he was on for season 2 to promote it with Whoopi Goldberg. And now season 3, they had a bunch of people in the cast. It's the only time I watched The View.
You caught them all live?
So I caught it live.
Okay. So you didn't have to set your VCR. Okay, cool.
No, I did not. So let's talk about Worf for a moment. And he's clearly going. We haven't seen him yet. He's clearly going to be in a different place when we see him, and as Beverly is. And as Riker and Picard are, but we've seen their story in previous episodes of Picard. Now, how has his identity changed? How has he become a pacifist? What we know about Worf, he lost his wife. He was in a very difficult war for a very long time. Last we met him, he was an ambassador.
He was an ambassador, and then didn't he say, that didn't didn't someone say, "Hey, weren't you an ambassador?" And he says, I mean, it's the old let's have an excuse for Worf all through the movies.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like was that in Insurrection? Like, Mr. Worf, what the hell are you doing here? Well, I was camera pans away. So
I was just in the neighborhood and heard there was a movie.
I'm guessing the ambassador thing won't stick. So it's been 20 years and life. Larry, are you the same person you were 20 years ago? I know I wasn't. I know I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. There's elements of my personality that are, there's definitely elements of my personality is very similar. Like if you met me 20 years ago and you spent a lot of time around me, you would like the same things and you probably complain about the similar things as you do now. But who I am, what's important to me, my values, maybe even some of my beliefs, those have definitely changed. And we know that's happened to Worf. It's not too difficult to imagine why that might be. Someone who's lost a wife, gone through the Dominion War, and then seen the fallout of, Worf always had a weird relationship with Romulans.
Well, hey, lost a mate. And then lost his unofficial mate. And then
the
mother of his child, and then lost his real wife.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All the layers of loss here.
And had a kid who came in and out of his life.
I'm gonna guess. I don't know if we'll get to see this in the show, but I'm guessing his parents have passed away at this point, given human lifespans. Or maybe not. I mean, human lifespans are longer in that era. Yeah, who knows? But he's someone who's experienced a lot of loss, and now with the galactic instability of the fall of Romulus, and given his relationship with Romulans and everything that happened to his father,
war time,
right. So yes, he's going to be very different than when we saw him at the end of Deep Space Nine. He's going to be a different character, and this is going to be true of all the legacy characters. And folks, it's going to be hard on us to see where some of these folks are.
Well, here's one of the things I meant when I said that about fandom, and we don't have 2 hours today, so we should keep an eye on the clock.
Oh my gosh, Larry, we have a lot of show to get through.
We have somebody else in VTC who wants our audience's bandwidth of attention. No, I was going to say one thing that I've seen just in the last week, and I started to worry about this 2-3 weeks ago because as the screeners went out, and it turns out that some people had these in December, but for at least a month, a lot of the media has had 6 of the 10 episodes to see.
Yes.
And it's almost like, be careful what you wish for, Lieutenant. You may get it. People have been profusive in their praise.
Yeah.
People have been gushing. People have said, I mean, the idea of it's the TNG reunion that's been out there. And Terry Matalas and Dave Blass and a lot of the creatives, the actors especially, have been dropping hints and breadcrumbs and not spoilers, but, ramping up the excitement level, which is what you do before anything premieres.
Yeah.
But it's gotten so it's this room. I said this week on Trekland Tuesdays Live, which you can watch every Tuesday. And on my second,
you can watch it live
now, that I worried that the bar was creeping too high, that a lot of the fandom who weren't privileged to see the screeners, which is hopefully still 95% of the world, that there was a lot of pushback, like, oh, come on, this is what always happens. Of course you're promoting the show. Oh, it can't be that good. Wait, this is the show that's disappointed me with its darkness for 2 years, 2 seasons. There was a lot of skepticism out there, and I almost wondered whether it was raising it too high. And I've seen that represented in a lot of places. Now, there have been a lot of people like Rob Burnett, people from different who have been very critical of the series and the franchise, the modern franchise, the Kurtzman years have been bowled over. And people are like, oh, no, not you too. It's almost like doubled down. It's almost like that other thing that we've been dealing with the last 5 or 6 years about fake news and fake truth and all of that, which we covered at times in the show. So it's been fun watching the reactions the last couple of days, and it made me realize that where a lot of people were coming from with their overly gushing reviews, and I think it's merited, But I said, I'm not going to take this to a 10 or even an 11 because there's always room for everybody to be disappointed about something.
Especially Star Trek.
And you don't, yeah, I know. But I've seen I've seen some reviewers, so I've seen just fans talk about it and say, oh no, it's all feeling like a nostalgia pond for me. It's all, it's still got dark corners. And I realized part of what may be skewing this is a lot of the reviewers were being so over the top optimistic, gushing about it because they'd seen 6, which gets us back the idea of this is back to serialized. This is a chapter. If people are thinking that the new captain is kind of a cardboard cutout, Jellicoe or a Styles or something, that's all it's going to be, where I know that he's developed as the season goes along, and that's not true. And a lot of the fears that people are expressing, it's that passion fear. It's like the reason people push back in fandom circles is because they love their thing so much. They're scared it's going to be ruined. And so the first, fight or flight, the first red flag goes up, and people get back into thinking this was a standalone episode, not the first chapter of a book. By the way, yay to Terry for having titles, the episode titles.
Oh my gosh. The, 2 things.
Anyway, that's the point I wanted to make and say, and I'm gonna.
No, I think it's well said, and just 2 things I want to give my props to. 3 things I'll give my props to Terry. 4 things.
What?
4 things I want to give my props to Terry here. I love the intro in the 25th century. Love it. I love how it is evoking a cinematic season. Mm-hmm. I love the ending credits. My goodness, they're beautiful. And what's particularly gorgeous about them is 2 things. The score, how it's weaving in the Next Generation motion picture, some of the movies, and also First Contact. Love it. And then the Elcars, the Akutas, they're back, and they're better than ever.
You think you thank Terry, you thank Dave Blass, the production designer, and you thank Dave Blass and Terry and it was last season too. It's really blooming this year.
Yeah.
But the Akutas and Doug Drexler and well, John Eves has worked on the show from the beginning, but he's in full glory now. And Jeff Mandel with those graphics, and Alan Kobayashi, and Monica Federick, who has worked on the movies and didn't get a lot of acclaim for that, and Ben Betts, and people. They have golden era art people at different stages, and I probably left people. I mentioned Dan Curry worked on the. Rick Sternbach contributed something remotely. I'm trying to remember even. So there's a lot of that good glow, and it's not like they replaced all the working art people that are working there. No. It's did little projects, and
I think it's a difference of having a story that's completely set on a Federation ship in the 25th century. I think that's the difference here. We're seeing it in the production here. Two comments I just want to point to. Andrew at 1158 said, "I'm guessing Ollie doesn't remember me." What are you talking about, Andrew? Come on. We went through pandemic times together here on Live Support Live. Of course I do. And then, Larry, the other one, there you go. The other one I wanted to point to, Charlotte said at 11:58 Pacific time, Larry and I are both Pacific, I recently read some entries from my journals in college and middle school, 20 and 30 years ago, respectively. And I'm like, whoa, who is this person? That was from Charlotte at 11:54.
There's a lot of 54. You said 58 again. Okay.
Oh, whoopsies. I was in a little bit of a anti-time paradox myself.
That's the finale. Update yourself. Come on.
Well, I think Charlotte says it really well over here. When we're a teenager and when we're also in our 20s, our identity is still very much being something we're experimenting with. That's very common, is for people to experiment with their identities, try out a lot of different things. You're still fleshing out who you are, your values, your beliefs, and things like that.
You're away from home and the crucible you were raised in.
Totally. All that stuff goes up and down. And even like once you're out of that, when you're in your 30s and 40s, it's a very different phase of life than 50s and 60s. So that's what we're running into here, folks, is our beloved characters. They're much they're in a very different phase of life. But we could talk all day.
It's a meeting of the intersection. We're in a phase of life.
Yes.
And they are too.
And we've talked about some of the legacy TNG characters here. We could spend all day talking about Picard, but we've done that before. Larry, can we just talk about Seven just for a moment while we're still on the topic of Picard?
Okay, sure. I mean, like, I pulled since I did this. What can I do here? Here. Can I do this?
There. Hey, there we go. Look at that. Look at Picard's expression there.
I thought that was perfect. Yeah.
And Riker's expression. One of the joys of this season is just seeing the two of them go on their adventure together. What joy there is there. But there's a lot that's being communicated there. What do you see there, Larry, in Picard's expression?
I see an homage to the scene in the motion picture when the Enterprise was reflected in the glass of the shuttle pod with Kirk and Scott. I'm sorry, that's fanboy voice?
Okay. I believe you're referring to the Lower Decks episode that is referencing that episode in which the engineer starts crying because he sees so much beauty in the starship.
Yes. So that's your is that your fanboy voice? Okay.
That is. It is.
Yes. No, I was zooming through trying to find one of these because they alternate between, they joke about it. Oh, it's funny because Captain Shaw throws it back in their face. And I've seen some people be a little upset by this, but I've seen people really laugh out loud about it, about looking like Shaw must represent the vast majority of Starfleet, who looks at these guys. They're heroic and legendary, but it's like, Jesus, guys, because like really everybody in Starfleet didn't go through what they did. They joke about it on Lower Decks.
They joke,
yeah. It's like something new happened to those guys every week.
Yeah, totally.
And the schmucks like Shaw just kind of keep the trains running on time,
I actually really like Shaw for a couple of reasons. Like yourself, Larry, I'm gonna take that away. Yeah. I have the advantage of knowing how his character arc develops a little bit, and folks, just stay tuned. But the actor who plays Shaw was on our panel, mine and Dr. Drea Ledamenti's, our San Diego Comic-Con panel back in 2020.
Oh, really? Yeah. Star Wars versus Star Trek?
Yes. Yeah. So if anyone wants to see, maybe someone can put it in the comments. It's the 2020 San Diego Comic-Con Psychology of Star Trek versus Star Wars panel. Todd is on that, and he's absolutely lovely and a deep fan of Star Trek.
Fresh from 12 Monkeys, then.
Fresh from 12 Monkeys,
and before this casting, obviously.
Yeah. So let's talk about Seven just a little bit. We've talked about Worf, but I think
sorry, we refer to her as Annika Hansen on this podcast.
That was a great moment. Oh, don't call me Seven. Identity Reimagined really. We could spend hours and hours talking about Seven and Identity. Her story, starting in Voyager, continuing Picard. Developing over these 3 seasons. There's a lot for us to talk about. We can't get into Voyager times. That's a whole nother thing. But Larry, if we just talk about over the course of Picard, she was what was it? Not a nefarious ranger.
Fenris Rangers. Rangers. I don't know. I just thought that was.
We protect the quadrant from the fallout of the fall of Romulus. I don't know.
In the old neutral zone.
The neutral zone, old neutral zone. That would be a great musical, actually, Larry. I'm thinking give me some...
Fenris Rangers.
I'm thinking a little Oklahoma meets Les Miserables in space as the vibe here.
Okay.
See,
I was having... I keep wanting to say East Side, West Side. What's the Jets and the Sharks?
West Side, yes. West Side Story?
East Side Sector.
Romulans.
East Side Quadrant.
Klingons.
Thank you. Now you're with me. Okay.
Officer Krupke, Starfleet U. Okay, so
yes, everybody.
There you go, folks. Okay. Seven, Annika. Let's talk about her. So she was this Fenris Ranger. Sorry, now it's in my head. And that kind of worked for her
Oh, that's the old Houston Oilers fight song, which I have no idea why that popped in my head. Houston Oilers, Houston Oil. I don't, they're dead team, but I just thought Fenris Rangers was a good mix. So go ahead. Please proceed, Governor.
No, I appreciate the context.
I like sourcing my material. I don't like to leave anybody unfootnoted. So go ahead.
There you go. Bob says, to be fair, East Side Story was the working title. I didn't know that.
Time.
Yeah, the time is the fire in which we burn, Larry. The time for that one was 12:07 Pacific Standard.
Oh
Beep.
my God. Okay. This is good. Time's a wasted.
Time's a wasted. So let's talk about 7. So she was this Fenris Ranger, and I think that worked for her, Larry, in the context of how she functioned on Voyager. She was always this. I consider her like an independent agent on Voyager. She kind of followed the rules, but also did her own thing. And
she was the Spock. She was the Odo. She was the Quark in that way.
Yeah. Yes. You mean the most interesting character who's commenting on the humanity? Yes, I agree.
Fanboy Ali, yes.
And that worked as a Fenris Ranger, and we get that great line about how it's because of 2 admirals that she's been able to become this Starfleet officer here.
There you go, Bob. I finally found it.
There you go. There we go, Bob.
And thanks for being here and commenting, I think,
So Janeway and Picard have both been instrumental in getting Seven her commission in Starfleet. However, Larry, she's achieved that identity that her mentors have been pushing her towards. And I love that Janeway and Picard are her mentors from very different angles. And Picard also has an XB, which I wish we had more of that storyline. Mm-hmm. But Larry, she's achieved this identity. She's the number 1 on the Titan A, the Neo-Constitution class.
Is this a subtle homage to neocons? Is this going to be some deep dive political? No, forget that. Okay. Stick with your topic. Yeah.
But Larry, it is not what she imagined it would be. It's actually been quite difficult for her now that she's achieved this identity.
Are you saying, we formally used to take and we invite the chat to do this too, but I'm madly trying to find this here. Are you saying that it's a little bit like the disillusionment that Boimler felt when he went to the Titan?
Hey, that, my friends, is what we call an assist. What a great picture that is, from one Riker to another, from one Titan to another. And from one series to another. Yes, absolutely. Let's change gears here, folks. I bet you didn't see that one coming.
I didn't mean to disrupt you off of 7.
No. This is a perfect transition here. It's also a nice. All right, Ali, let's keep it moving along. We got more segments.
No, this is like, once again, I was up late pulling these pictures. We damn well better use them. So.
Boimler wants more than anything to be out of the lower decks, to become a captain one day. Mm-hmm. He wants to serve not on a California class starship. He wants to serve not on second contact missions. He wants to be out there making first contact. He wants to be on one of the big ships. And he finally gets that opportunity in lower decks. And Larry, it is not what he was anticipating. He achieves that identity, and it's not what he wants.
And he's disappointed. So what does it say that, aside from the format of a show that if he was a live action character, he'd be contracted for, unless he pisses somebody off. No, and he wants to do features. But no, it's like, in real IRL. What's the matter? You can't see.
No, I just love that impression.
Boimler has an agent? Of course he does.
Boimler has an agent, yes.
Bradler, yes, Boimler. That should be a drinking game point, if nothing else. No, I mean, it's like in IRL, that would be a case of do you take, and this is what 7 was into, do you go down that path and you live with your disappointment and maybe try to ride it out, or do you sense immediately that it was something, wrong.
Absolutely. And Melanie, just 2 minutes ago at 12:10, said, hailing from Modesto, California, future home of Bradward Boimler. Hello, Melanie, and hello to all of you hailing from California class cities here.
The finale of that, by the way, I was just like,
oh, that was great.
Okay, Burbank's in there, yay.
Yeah.
How many California towns?
I was like, oh, Oakland's there, good enough. Yeah. So Larry, this is the thing about this is the thing that happens to a lot of us.
Yeah.
We might be working towards a degree, working towards a career, working towards a title, and we think we know what it would be like once we achieve that title, once we achieve that rank, that position, and just that name or that role or that it's oftentimes it's not enough, or it's not what we anticipate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the counselor's log. But I love that they had that story for Boimler. It was unexpected, and it really did honor to this kind of story. We don't see this story in Star Trek often. We only see it with admirals, right? Kirk says to Picard, "Got a captain of the Enterprise, huh? Well, let me tell you something. Don't let them promote you. Don't let them do anything that gets you off that bridge of that starship. Because when you're on that bridge, you make a difference."
Can I just say something?
Please.
I just say something really quick?
Please.
That was the worst Shatner impression I've ever heard.
I didn't commit to it. I thought to do a Shatner, and then I gave up.
Because doing Shatner is the easiest impression to do in the world.
You know what else happened since we've been off air, Larry?
What?
Shatner's been in space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's actually apparently really wasn't just putting on for the camera, actually been a little...
No, he was really moved by the emptiness of space. He looked up and he saw nothing, and he looked down and he saw our planet, and it was so fragile. He wanted nothing more than to come back to Earth.
Look over here and see his autograph line stretching.
So, that's great. I'm so glad you brought up Boimler.
Although you knew in the exigencies of formatting, whether it's live action or animation, he's a regular. I mean, it's going to wind up back somehow. It's just a matter of how is it going to be dealt with. One thing here, you're talking about training and outlook when you're younger. Here's another one we talked about.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Hey, we're talking. Wow, Larry, this theme. It's like it's perfectly catching us up on everything we missed.
I actually did a discovery. So, okay.
Let's talk about Disco, and let's talk about Tilly. So here's a situation where Tilly actually learns that she's a pretty good teacher. She's a pretty good mentor. And what a cool arc we have of seeing her season 1 as a cadet, as very much a stand-in for us as fans, as many fans who would be so excited to be on the bridge of a starship, and at the same time really nervous, unsure, not confident. Like, I think there's a reason why so many people have been so touched by Tilly's story. And now we see in season 4 of Discovery that she's actually quite good at teaching and being a mentor herself. And this is now her path. Starfleet needs her to help build the next generation, the next generation of Starfleet officers.
That almost sounded like 47 next, but yeah.
There's 47 is a magic number, Larry.
Well, so here's the thing, Ollie, there's more than one series now. There's actually more, 2 or 3, or maybe 4.7 or.
It's like the 90s all over again. Just ratchet it up.
And in the glory days of this show, every week our goal was we would invite the chat. We still do. We invite everybody to come up with your own ideas and get to thinking, but we would find cases for our theme of the week and try to at least have one highlight from every series. And we realized today that was going to be crazy, because if nothing else, part of the artificiality of this is we're talking about these characters as real people, and hopefully the better the drama is made, the more the characters seem like real people. But in reality, one of the things about an Identity Reimagined is characters who are on screen long enough to have an arc that's going to be changing because it's a dramatic character, and somebody who's static gets boring, as in, O'Brien, when we first saw him for 4 years standing in Transporter Room 3, but it's a meme. And the minute then, as they realized they wanted to spin him off, they love Colin Meaney as an actor. They want to spin him into DS9. Then he gets a year or two of development. Suddenly, he gets married. Oh, now he's got domestic marital drama and whatever and talk. And they're building him up to. So it's all the practicalities of TV and storytelling. And then we have O'Brien's arc on DS9. He winds up being a teacher back at Starfleet, and then he becomes the most famous, the most important person in Starfleet history, according to Lord X. Spoiler.
Yeah, and when we talk about,
is a lot of what we talk about today is true of every single character. We can go through every cast.
Yeah, and I should.
The modern shows having broken people versus the old days, but we did this. Picard. Everybody had their bugaboos and their demons and their devils and their evolutions and having to change themselves in life. So, and
I should define identity a little bit more, and I will in the counselor's log. But part of it,
okay,
but part of it is how an individual sees themselves and defines themselves, and Tilly has really defined herself as an officer on Discovery. That has really become her family in more ways than one, especially now that they're in the far future. For her to now think of herself as a teacher and as someone who has something to give the next generation of officers, that takes a lot of time for her to process and think about. And Larry, it's not something she was seeking. Unlike Seven or Boimler or Worf or Picard, these other characters we talked about who are on a career trajectory, this is not something that Tilly desired, but it's something that is asked of her. Or, as they said in Top Gun, also something that happened since you and I were off. They're orders. They're
another Paramount product.
Another Paramount product. Yeah.
Who's a shill?
So, I think that is also something that is asked of us. From time to time, sometimes we are asked to make career changes by our superiors, and we don't necessarily want to go in that direction, but we're called upon it.
How about this, Ollie? How about when
I'm all ears?
How about not what we want, or even what our superiors want, but how about sometimes when life just knocks us on our ass?
That sounds like a strange new world we might be visiting. Let's talk about
this was hard to find a good image for, but basically, in case you didn't know, that's Captain Pike growing a beard, hiding in the snow of Montana, although it's actually New Mexico,
with
having his whole life image of command thrown apart because now he's seen his death.
With another captain of the Enterprise, Admiral April.
Robert April, yes.
Robert April. Yeah, I was trying to think of his first name.
Of the animated, but the Robert April of.
So this is actually where our theme came from. We were thinking, how can we unite a lot of these shows that we've missed since we've been off air? And Larry, I just got to say, I love Strange New Worlds so much. Every episode. I just am in love with this series. So I'm totally biased here because this the most feels to me like the episodic Star Trek I love so deeply. And I love that they all want to explore. That's as strange as it sounds. It's been a while.
It's amazing. They should have if they really wanted to sell Star Trek, they should have come up with like a tagline for in marketing terms. They should have, to determinedly, excitedly go explore places and find.
No, I got a better one for you. How about to explore weird, unseen, habitable zones? How's that sound?
Stuff.
Yeah, stuff.
Yeah. That's out there.
Yeah.
That way. Yeah.
Okay, so just hear me out here.
Okay.
I would argue it isn't really since Star Trek Enterprise that we've seen a crew that wants to go out and do stuff. Because we had the Kelvin movies.
Episode or two there of just they found the planet with the floaty things in the tree.
Sure, there was a here and a there. The Kelvin crew never really got to explore. They've been just like in disaster after disaster after disaster, right? Discovery has focused on these larger arcs for the whole season.
I will say that the Discovery arc of season 4, not the villain adversarial part, but the part about making first contact with the completely budget busting non-humanoid, no bumpy forehead people, and using means like olfactory.
Yes.
That was an amazing. So yay, Discovery, for finally using your platform to give us some exciting science-y process trek.
I agree with you. Yes. I agree with you, and that was a lovely.
Do it after 4 years. You can.
That was a lovely arc. I'm so glad we got to see that. But Picard didn't do a ton of exploring, and Lower Decks maybe. Lower Decks has done,
Lower Decks does all the time. Yeah.
And definitely Prodigy. Prodigy has done some exploring. But okay, so maybe I'm talking myself out of my argument here. But
it's definitely a curve, though. It's definitely
a curve.
Yeah.
But if we talk about this curve, let's talk about Pike. You bring up a really great point here. So Pike here, his story continuing from the original series, the Menagerie, to Discovery, to now Strange New Worlds. The main thing he is going through from that first episode of Strange New Worlds through the last episode of the first season, which, oh my goodness, that episode, wow, is this knowledge he has that he is going to be in this major accident. Mm-hmm. He is going to become very much disabled. He's going to have this chronic condition. He's going to lose the ability to walk. He's going to lose the ability to speak. He's getting some pretty tough news here. And I think that similar to the news Picard gets in All Good Things, that he has, what is it, Reimagined syndrome? Is that it, Larry?
Very good, yes.
Thank you. The stuff that his
Reimagined syndrome. Yeah.
There we go.
There's nothing automatic about Reimagined. Yeah.
But aromatic, I think those new aliens that we discovered in Discovery would find aromatic syndrome maybe interesting.
They're aromoids, aromatomoids. Okay.
But like Picard, they have this knowledge, they have this diagnosis that is going to have a huge impact on what they can do. And this whole season of Strange New Worlds is Pike struggling with the knowledge that his future identity is not going to be what he thought it was. He will not be able to be the captain that he thought he was going to be. Go ahead, Larry.
Can I counter that in a thankful way?
Please.
At the beginning, the one thing that was damping my enthusiasm, not dampening, but damping, because there's no water involved, just like inertial dampers, not inertial dampeners. Anyway, the one thing that was damping my enthusiasm for Strange New was I didn't want to see, for the pilot, sure, get the thing established. But after the second episode, and maybe the third, where that would come up, I was like, oh, please don't have every episode has the 5 minutes of Pike anguish about dealing with his foreknowledge. And thankfully, they got away from that. And then it did come back in the last episode where we learned that time crystals are just as magical as Q powers. So don't worry about it's all a fake future and it all resets just fine, just like Q. So don't get your panties in a wad about temporal mechanics because it's just magic temporal crystals from Boreth. But that to say, yes, I'm just glad that for dramatic purposes and for the story of the week, he doesn't, because then he would just be moping every week. And
he does mope a lot, but he also doesn't mope a lot.
Right. That's the food therapy. That's the kitchen prep therapy.
You know what's helped him a lot? You know what's helped him a lot with that, Larry?
Having a big set budget?
No. Having a really big budget for this therapeutic hair pomade that he has. Right. Now, it does have one downside, which means his quaff every episode starts increasing by about an inch. So it's really getting up there.
I'm shocked that no one has memed this yet.
So, Larry, we have an important message at 12:25. Okay. Libby, welcome, Libby. Good to see you.
Libby's here.
Says, I lost track of time. I was drinking Canar in Quark's bar.
In the bar?
With
Quark's Damar?
I'm sure Damar was there.
Line, everybody.
And they're having they didn't run too afar. And here's back where they are. So
I can't find exactly what you saw, but I'm gonna stick her in there. Yay, Libby. And I was waiting for Libby to come in and say, of all people, Rom would be somebody who had their identity reimagined.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. But today is about the new shows. If we, on the topic of Strange New Worlds, Larry, I also want to talk about Uhura. So,
okay, I was going to move to another show, but go ahead. But yes, Uhura, yes.
Yeah. So what's cool about both Kelvin Uhura as well as Prime Uhura is we're getting a lot more of the backstory of this character developed. I really love.
Well, fake backstory, but go ahead.
Yeah. But I love that Uhura is like Tilly is this character that comes onto the Enterprise and is really unsure of who she wants to be. And I love seeing some of this training process. Diaz for a new segment, Ollie talks himself out of what?
I've started out of an argument in the chat today, guys. But anyway,
he keeps
insisting on talking. So. Okay.
I love seeing this training program, Larry, that we saw a little bit of this like informally with Wesley, but here we see the more formal process that she doesn't know who she wants to be. She doesn't know if she wants to continue serving in Starfleet. She doesn't know if she wants to complete her training. And as a part of her training, she does these rotations in different departments. She's getting exposed to a wide variety of the kind of things you do. That second episode of Strange New Worlds really dives into this. Mm-hmm. And I love that she's able to experiment with her identity by getting exposure to a wide variety of work. That's really wonderful. And it kind of speaks to more, I think we talked about this a long time ago in Life Support Live, apprenticeship type models. You know, I wish we had more of that in society where people could just get a taste of these different roles and see what they like. But
we used to do that. Can I squeeze something in real quick here?
You can always squeeze whatever you want, Larry.
We were talking about new shows, and I started laughing because I realized since it's the age range of the cast and the audience, finding ourselves reimagining ourselves is everybody in Prodigy is doing that.
Yeah,
maybe not. Well, Murph, we'll figure out what Murph's mindset is. But
does Murph have a mind? What is going on with you, Murph? Murph.
Can you see my? Oh, not
I can't. Not when you're small like that. I can't see. Nope, I can't see. Hold on. Go get it, Larry.
This is Cadet Alice's. So thank you, Anne Marie, for getting this for me from New York
Comic-Con.
But this is Cadet Alice's Murph that stayed. This is baby Murph. Now that we know spoilers, we know Murph is an adolescent now or something. But anyway,
I love Murph. Murph is a cutie.
A lot of people woke up. Speaking of what happened while we were away, a lot of people woke up and realized that Prodigy was not just for kids. It was creating some of the best, amazing Star Trek feel goods and science and canon. And that a few people were saying Prodigy might just be the best Star Trek out there right now.
Well, and if you like Janeway, you're going to get a lot of Janeway in Prodigy, a lot of Janeway's development. And there's Dahl is someone who is trying to figure out who the heck he is.
In this scene and this arc, he totally figures out that he's a genetic construct.
He's an augment.
He's an augment. Yeah. He's more than an augment. He's like
the ultimate augment.
He's a mulligan stew. He's not even
a mulligan.
That's an official scientific genetic term. You didn't know that?
It is in the 24th century.
That's some 18th century technobabble there for you.
So Linda asks, is Dr. Ali watching Prodigy with his daughter? I actually think it's a little scary for her. She loves Bluey. and she loves Peppa Pig, and she loves Spidey and his Amazing Friends on Disney Plus. She would be a little scared. The beginning is a little scary of Prodigy, but Alice, Larry, how's Alice liking?
Boom! There's our Alice logo.
Yeah, there we go.
She will be 7. There's times when it's not even like scary, but like if it's a tense chase, like the climactic chase to the finale of season or half season 1. There's times when she'll still kind of do this, even if it's just like a tight chase that's tense.
Yeah,
like you don't know who's going to win, kind of a thing.
But she's 2 years older than my daughter, which I think is probably the right.
Alice will be 7 in April. So
yeah, and my daughter's 5. I think like somewhere between 6 and 7, I think is a magic point to start with Prodigy. But yeah,
so Rock Talk finds out she's a scientist. She doesn't have to be the big, bulky, clumsy person. She's got this wonderful science brain that she's had to do to save everybody. But now she's had a whole new view of herself, and Gwen has a whole new view of herself that she has this problematic thing of her dad, and now she has to go back and help save her people. She's on a mission. So
and like I was saying before, this is a big part of adolescence and of your young adult years is to try to figure some of this stuff out. We're seeing it happen in real time in Prodigy. We're seeing it acutely with Doll, but we're seeing it, with all the characters. There's one more character we could talk about, Larry, from all
we're at 30 minutes to go, just so you know.
Yeah, we'll make it really fast, and that's Booker from Discovery was another character I was thinking about. He loses his home world, and he has lost so much of his family, and so much of how he defined himself was in relation to his plan.
He was a conservationist, and he's got nothing to conserve now.
Yes.
Well, he can, but everything that he cared about is gone.
And so this is we've kind of talked about this story a little bit with Kelvin, Spock. So I don't want to or some of these ideas of loss of your home world and how it impacts you. So I don't want to dive too much into it because I know we've got a few more segments to go through, but I just wanted to point that out. And I think with that, Larry, we are caught up on all the shows we missed out on.
Are we ready for the counselor's log?
It's been a while. It's been a long road waiting for your counselor's log.
Boom. There. Okay,
there we go.
Now it's
looking good. I like that. So let's talk about the counselor's log. This is the part of the show where we do a little bit of a deeper dive into the psychology of what we're talking about today. So a few things I wanted to talk about, Larry. One thing I wanted to talk about as it relates to the TNG cast, the legacy characters, if you will, is social identity. So often we define who we are based on who is around us.
Who is around, right? Yeah.
So I remember you and I had a lot of conversations early in the pandemic where you were talking about your entrepreneurial friends and what people were saying about how to get through this time and ideas. Now, that's a great example of social identity. You have friends who are also entrepreneurs who are doing this similar kind of work, and you define yourself as an entrepreneur because you also have these connections because of the stuff you do. Mm-hmm. Similarly, if I'm surrounding myself by psychologists and mental health therapists and all of those good folks, that's going to be a big part of my identity. But it also factors into
for free.
Yeah. It also factors into where you live, your hobbies, all of that kind of stuff. And this can have a huge impact on a number of things. But if we look at the TNG characters, most of them have not been with each other for 20 years. Beverly hasn't been with anyone, as you mentioned, as we learned in this first episode. So this is the first part of to help us all understand what's going on with the TNG cast and what might happen to ourselves when we're around a bunch of people who identify a certain way. We're going to identify that way. So this is actually something we can use. If you want to become a writer, find a way to surround yourself with other writers. Join a writer's group, and you'll start to feel more like a writer, and you'll actually become a better writer. If you want to quit smoking, you hang around with a lot of people who don't smoke. And if you want to become more physically active, joining a group that does it will make it easier. And so as we go through and meet our TNG cast again and these legacy TNG era characters, think about why it might make sense that they're experiencing certain conflicts or might not understand each other because they haven't been a crew. They haven't been in that observation room. They haven't been on the Enterprise in a long time. So of
if you
course,
notice that first Picard episode, entitled, by the way, The Next Generation.
The Next Generation.
And thank you again, Terry, for giving us episode titles. What was so hard about that? I don't care what the style is. Since when did Star Trek ever have to say? Okay, fine. There was even a hint in Riker's sadness when Picard is saying, "Oh, I can't ask you to go off with me on a crazy adventure," and Picard says, "Maybe actually this would be good to give Kestra and Deanna a little separation from me." And it was like, "Ooh, did I detect a little, not all's, a little lack of paradise in paradise there?" So,
and one more thing I want to talk about with Pike and kind of understanding some of what he's going through. In real life, we are, in most parts of the world, we're living longer. And one of the things that we know really impacts your experience of aging are the stereotypes you have about aging. So there are all these stereotypes about how people who get older, they're more likely to be depressed. Not true. All these stereotypes that you get older, you're going to develop dementia. Some people do, but it's a small portion. It's not guaranteed. All these ideas about how your IQ goes down. No, it doesn't. You're not as fast as a 20-year-old in solving problems. However, you have more wisdom. Your mind is able to make more connections with more memories. There's psychological proof for wisdom. So people who have a lot of stereotypes about aging do struggle with aging more. And I think that's the thing about Pike here. If I was Pike's counselor, I would talk to him about, well, what do you think this would mean to have your abilities change? And is it still possible to have a meaningful, fulfilling life where you're making a difference for Starfleet, even though you might go through this accident, go through this injury? Absolutely, it does. So to help people reimagine their identities, think about what biases you might be running into, and think about the people you're spending time around. I guarantee if Pike spent some time with other individuals who have the same abilities that he would have in the future, he might have a different way of thinking about it. Larry, there's a lot more I could say, but I'm going to save it for the away mission. You know what I could go for right now?
What could you go for?
A K3.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we have to get on with this. How about this, sir? Boom. Oh, wait. That's what we were.
No, I don't have another log. I am done with the logs.
How about this, sir?
There we go. Oh, the K3 factor. This, I love a good K3.
Oh, see this right here? That's the only mention in just about in the original series of mental health. There's a K3 brain factor thing on the old bioscale. So Ollie's been talking about the mental health side of our topic today, and I like to bring at least a corner here of a deep dive on Trek into our topic, but do it backstage behind the scenes, which is what everything I do in Trekland is all about. Did I explain that? Was that pretty good? Basically? Okay.
That's great.
And my goal is always to surprise Ollie with something he didn't know. So
yes, which you have a good record of doing.
Yeah, I think I'm like 92% or something. I'm well.
Yeah. It was like once every 10 episodes where I was like, meh, I knew that.
I knew that. No, so behind the scenes, and the easiest people to know their biographies are the people who are the highest profile. And you could start, and some of them were obvious. Like, well, Gene Roddenberry himself is a cop's son who is in California and goes that path. And then it's World War II. So he's a pilot, and he's a commercial pilot. And then he has a couple of, he wants to get on the ground. He has a wife and kids. So he goes back to the force. He goes back to LAPD too. And along the way, he realizes he's having a money crunch and he wants to, and he's in LA. He's here, Hollywood, as TV is evolving and movies. And he wants to be a writer, and he writes speeches for Chief Parker. And he gets to be just like in, what was the movie? Anyway, he becomes a TV cop consultant.
You gave me no hints to help you with that movie.
Oh, somebody's going to pop in the chat. I've just gone blank on it. It's the movie where Jamie Cromwell was the corrupt cop. Had all the stars in it.
Okay, someone will get that. Yeah.
Yeah, someone will get that. No, he became a consultant. He became the police consultant to a TV show in the 50s, and saw what he realized how much writers and everything in TV and media, how much they were paid. It was like, oh my God, I want to do this. And he had loved science fiction and writing anyway. So that was like an awareness of what he could be. It was kind of a Tilly moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a scary phrase. It was. And so then he sets on that path. Well, he's an obvious case. You could look down, you could look at, I don't know, like actors like Jonathan, who say, I'm going to age out of my acting thing here, but if I'm a director, I've got regular.
LA Confidential.
Thank you. LA Confidential.
That was via Tim. Thank you, Tim.
I'd say if you say you love that movie, then it's like, if you love it so much, how can you not think of the title? But Frakes and LeVar and Roxanne.
That's called a tip of the tongue phenomenon, Larry, if you're wondering what the technical term is for that.
Technobabble, yeah. Robbie, all those actors. Doug Drexler came out of, well, he's an amazing, multi-talented guy, but he came to Hollywood working in the industry as a makeup person, won an Oscar on Dick Tracy, but decided he really wanted to work in the art department and reimagined himself and got hired over there on doing, graphics and CG and visual effects and illustration. And Michael Piller, who wanted to be a writer, whose dad was a writer, but he was told by a college professor, here's a whole side topic, that he was to give up this whole writing dream of his. He was horrible. So he dealt with that and went off and became a journalist. He won Emmys for local TV reporting. Then he got into the industry, but like safely. He was a program consultant. He was a censor for a while and did program practices and came back around to writing, and then and then wound up with Star Trek. All those people were reimagining themselves. But the one I want to say today, and maybe people didn't know about this, was boom, Jerry Taylor.
Oh,
and the part of her story I love, and a lot of people don't know, is she was married in 1959 to hello. Oh, I'm going to take, so you can barely see him now. So Dick Enberg, the famous sportscaster, and she were married for about 14 years. She had her 3 children, one of whom was Alex Enberg. Sorry, everybody, I'm blocking here. Let me see if I can remove us a minute. Boom. Alex Enberg, who played Torek and Vorik and the reporter in Time Zero at a Malon later, was one of her 3 children. They divorced. She had been a housewife her whole life, and she basically reimagined herself to go and to go and be she wanted to get into writing, and she was around the industry adjacent to Dick. And if you look at her life, she divorced in about 73, and within about 5 years wound up with 18 writing credits here, and then graduated up the ladder to being a producer. And look at all these shows she was producing before she came to The Next Generation. None of them science fiction, but it's somebody who life, it's a lemonade out of lemon situation here. And she took advantage of where she was. And on top of all that, we're talking about a woman with 3 kids who I'm sure she was being child supported by somebody in the position Dick Enberg was, top of his field in sports broadcasting at a network. But so she had support, but she still had to get herself out there, and knew she had these, probably from when she was in Indiana and was whatever her major was, English or something maybe, or writing, went back and reinvented. But, she talked about reinventing her identity. And and then, not that. Anyway, and thank goodness she kind of, when she retired, she was very humble about it and thought, oh, I gave all the interviews. No one wants to hear from me. But with all the resurgence of Janeway and Seven and Voyager interest, thankfully, we've coaxed her back out. She's going to be part of the Voyager documentary. She's been at cons a couple of times the last couple of years. She's, I think, about 80 now, but she's still out there. The fandom,
the community loves her so much, and I'm so glad that she's hopefully getting to experience that at this point in her life.
I'm going to give us our frame back. So there you go.
Yeah. This one is both a surprise and not a surprise. Your lead up was not a surprise. I was like, yeah, I've heard this. I know Roddenberry. Woohoo. But
it's almost like that's why I did it the way I did it.
Yeah. I think we might have talked about this, but it's not clear in my mind. I think this is a new one for me. So your record
Well, I wanted to
is
really talk about
unvarnished.
the life change and the way you have to reimagine yourself. She's told me at times, she's like, I was just a housewife with 3 kids when we were
Yeah.
divorced. And it's not like she was going to be out on the street. I'm sure she had hopefully she had a really good set. Now she remarried. Dick Enberg remarried. She remarried. She was married, and her husband David passed away just a couple of years ago. They were retired together. He had kids, so she had a very fulfilling life, and she had her 3 kids. But yeah, it's still a case of no matter where you are in the world in life, sometimes you have something handed to you that you have to and she reimagined. She forced herself into the TV industry as a writer, producer, and even directed a couple of times. So on all kinds of projects. So.
Yeah, there was a comment here. I'm trying to find it, but forgive me. I'm not going to find it. I think it might have been Libby who said, she changed careers at 40 and doesn't have any regrets about it. And I think as I'm listening to this story here, Larry, about
I earlier
Jerry
saw,
Taylor.
and I'm forgiving me, everybody. I saw someone say they were 59 and starting their 5th job or 5th career or something. So.
Yeah, Jerry Taylor's story here reminds me of what Charlotte said. If you can find it at 1241, Larry, Charlotte had this beautiful comment where she said, one thing I love about the TOS movies of the 80s and 90s is that we get to see the crew save the world in their later years, getting similar vibes from Picard Season 3. You can be a hero at any age. I love that. I love that way you said that, Charlotte. And I think Voyager is a better show because of Jerry Taylor's life experience. It's a different show than if it was made by someone who was in their 20s or 30s. Her life experience informed the creation of this character that we love, Janeway. The more, the different perspectives that we bring at different points in our life have tremendous value. And I think Jerry Taylor's story is a good example of that.
Of course, Jerry retired after Season 4, so she was there to bring on 7. And then she retired. Brannon took over, and there's an age difference. So if you want to microanalyze Voyager, there's one way of doing it. Yeah.
On the next Life Support Live.
Yeah.
Larry, let me give folks a quick away mission, and then let's open up those hailing frequencies here. So the away mission, this is the part of the show.
Whoa. There you go.
There it is. We're in business. Nicely done, Larry. The away mission is the part of the show where I give you some way of applying what we're talking about to your own life, so you can boldly go as well. Larry, just a couple, 2-3 things I want to say here. First is we are terrible at predicting how we're going to feel in the future. Boimler is a great example of this. If only I was on the bridge.
Who is it? What are we talking about?
Boimler is a great example of this. Woo! Gave myself a little rush there with that one.
It's been a while.
It's been a long road. So he thought he was going to feel great if he was serving in this role, and then he doesn't. He really misses a lot of things about being on the lower decks. So this is called affective forecasting, predicting how we're going to feel in the future. We're terrible at this. So sometimes we end up pursuing these identities, and then we get there and we're like, actually, this is not what I expected it to be. So one of the things I know I said this often on Live Support Live, but talking to someone who's already living in that future that you hope to be in, Boimler didn't really do that. He was so busy worshiping the bridge crew, the senior staff, that he never actually got a chance to really talk to them and ask them what life is really like. And so if you can find a way to speak to someone who's living the identity that you are pursuing, that might help you to make a difference there. And then the other thing, if you're currently struggling with your identity in some way, a big tip I've got for you is to really think about, what would you tell someone else who's in the situation you're in? What would you tell a friend who's in the same situation you're in? I think one of the biggest, we didn't talk about self-compassion a lot in our show. I think we talked about finding compassion a lot, but I think a real necessary skill right now, given the way things are in 2023, is self-compassion. Finding ways to understand why it makes sense that you're in the situation you're in. I think this can go a long way for someone like Captain Pike or Admiral Picard, or any of the legacy characters we're about to run into now on Picard. They're all struggling. They might be struggling with some of the situations they find themselves in, but can we step back and say, okay, how does it make sense that all the circumstances of your life have led to this moment, and that you're feeling this way? That's all I got, Larry, for an away mission. Let's open up those.
We actually have a few minutes to. Hold on, it's not official.
It's getting close. There we go. Hailing frequencies open. This is the part of the show where we open up those hailing frequencies.
Even more than they already were.
Even more. JR Poll, Larry, at 1240, said you two docs are a treat to watch, and gave us some hearts. JR, good to see you again. Happy to have you.
Because I got to post that. I can't let that go by.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. That was that. 1240. Boom. There you go.
Thank you, JR. Yes.
And then a little bit before that, Larry, at 1236, Robert said, social identity has been the largest issue for me ever since I was mildly bullied, and that caused me to not be able to build many social connections for a number of years. So, Robert, this is something that is a big struggle of adolescence. It's also a big struggle with retirement and aging. The older you get, the harder it can be to sustain your social network, to sustain your friends. Life happens. People get divorced.
It's amazing, all the stress of adolescence and finding yourself. And then it's like you have that, and then you got there, and then you watch it all kind of fritter away in one way of looking at it.
It changes. If you become a parent, if you move, you start a new career, you change careers, you retire. Life happens.
It can be a challenge.
Yeah. It's a real challenge. So, Robert, I feel you here. I think this is a big.
Everything from the economy to just our situations, the way the world is you're at a peak. You see that a lot. Watch celebrities. Watch even people who aren't public, but like producers. And I remember when we interviewed Harv Bennett for The Con of Wrath, yes, my documentary, the first time we had to go up to a small town outside of Ashland, Oregon, and he was living retirement. He had his wife and family that he'd been with. He had been divorced for several years and had remarried, and was kind of quasi estranged from his first family.
Yeah. And
he was happy to talk about everything, and we had never done a real interview, so I was glad to get him. And but it was because he had this, it was really a funny thing, and it really made me think, because we were talking, and I talked him back and forth and said, someday we're going to sit down and have a big sit down interview. Yes, and catch up, because it was years after he could talk about anything, right? It was years, nobody cared. And we finally got the date and everything, and he said, now I gotta warn you, I don't have my big Hollywood house anymore, and it's like I cared about that, and I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I don't care. He's like, we're in this little A-frame up in the mountains. And I said, that sounds lovely. He's like, okay. And then when we got in town and I was calling, make sure we were okay with the time, he says, now I got to warn you, you're going to have to bring your own beer. I don't have any beer. And I said, okay. I said, what should I bring? And he said, oh, local brand. And we went by. I found a place on the way and went in and got some. And I remember I came up to the door and I said, beware of Romulans bearing gifts. but it's so key to, he's a producer. And sometimes when you're off of the Hollywood, some people have a hard time navigating that. And some people, we watch people struggle with things as we watch not all the actors and celebrities and people we love, or just watch, descend that ladder gracefully. And some have happens with athletes. It happens with politicians. It happens with a lot of people who saw themselves. Oh my God, the full import of what you were just saying is hitting me. We watch this happen in real life all the time. And some people navigate it. They may have better support. They may have had better core to themselves. They may be all alone in the world by that time. But sadly, but we know it happens in real life. We have to sell our homes and go downsize and rent, or when just empty nesters have to say, oh, what do we do with the kids? And marriages fall apart sometimes when there's not the kids aren't there to, all these are little real world problems that we do. And we think of this identity either with kids or thankfully the issues with people literally transitioning and people who are literally physically, emotionally changing their ideas. Like, we didn't even touch on that, but this is just how it happens to everybody mainstream, and a lot of food for thought. And yeah, something like Picard is, the prodigy kids are doing it naturally, it feels like, and that's the drama of the show. But I don't know. I'm waiting to see if people are going to be pushing back on Picard, because I don't think, have you seen that much? I don't think people are as
well. There's not much to go on right now. We have we're one episode in. So there's not a ton of pushback. There's a lot of celebration and joy and excitement for what's to come. I think, give it a few episodes and people might be, there's one moment I'm thinking about in particular, but I cannot talk about it. Larry, Kimber.
Don't talk about spoilers. No.
Larry, at 12:53, Kimber had a real lovely comment here. Kimber said, "This has given me a lot to consider as I reflect inwardly about entering my later 30s. Larry, every now and then on this show, we would spark something that I think helps folks. So thank you for that.
Keeping people awake. Yeah.
Yes. And then at 12:55, Galinda said, "This is so refreshing." And we are getting a lot of comments like that from folks saying how great it is to be back here on Life Support Live. And Galinda also said at 12:53, Larry, just a few minutes before that, a lot of few people said this as well. "I struggle to change my self-talk. I can be brutal to myself." And then Mona at 12:52 said, "Yeah, most of us talk."
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Larry. Mona said at 12:52, "Yeah, most of us talk to others differently than we talk to ourselves." So one thing I just want to say there, Larry, is our part of our emotions, their job is to create these thoughts. Like when you're anxious, our emotions' job is to create scary thoughts. When we're down and sad or depressed, it's the job to make these very these thoughts that are not too hopeful about the future. I say, notice that your mind does that and don't give much value to those thoughts. It's just reflecting how you feel. We don't have a lot of choice over what thoughts pop in our head. We have some choice over our attention and what we focus to. And if life support has taught me anything, it's focus on Star Trek, focus on communities, on people that lift you up, and focus more on Trekland at youtube.com/@Dr. Ali for more. Larry. This has been lovely. It's that time.
Can you believe that? It's been we would usually take 2 hours, so 90 minutes was a little bit but I think we got through everything. I only regret that we didn't dive into our lifers, old and new, veterans and new folks. So it's been a pleasure to see everybody. It's been great to see you and do this again. And I know we can't do it every week. It's crazy, but I hope we can again. I also am not. I just realized you used to play the music to go out. We didn't have I only have it attached to the timer, so I can't play
It's all good. It's all good, Larry.
Sad music. So we won't leave everybody with the sad music today, but
let's tell people, especially for the new folks who are coming in from Virtual TrekCon, where can they find more of your work, Larry?
Just LarryNemecek.com. Everything is there. My Twitter's Larry Nemecek. Please, if you're here on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please subscribe right now. But no, we have our Tuesday live show, Trekland Tuesdays live at 1 Pacific, 4 Pacific, which is Eastern, and the Europeans can see that. And of course, the Trek Files from Roddenberry are podcast every week. We just went on hiatus, but we'll be back in about five weeks. But all 9 seasons are there to go back and look at the catalog.
9 seasons, my goodness.
Trekland, I know, since 2018. And Trekland Treks, if you're in LA and you want to take your own away mission, we will customize a tour. Next week, I've got 10 people going on the cruise, all taking a set location tour, so I've got that to look forward to after this weekend. But
Nice.
no, things are bopping in Trekland, and these fresh treks are keeping us busy. But we're all about the legacy stuff too. So anything backstage, canon, making of, I'm your guy, gang. And hopefully we'll see you. Hopefully we'll see you down the. And cons are reopening this year, and we're going to be bopping around with that. What about you, Ollie? Cons?
Well, if you're interested in the backstage of your mind, that's my role. So I've been firing away on the content
you have been chewing it up since we last saw it.
Yeah, it's kind of my job now. So if you go to youtube.com/dr youtube.com/@DRALI, Dr. Ali. That'll get you to my YouTube channel. That's my home hangout. A lot of stuff there, a lot more stuff that's coming, short content, less than a minute, medium content. I've got some longer content that's in development too. So all that stuff's coming. Robert says, I'd love if Ali can make it to STLV. One of these days, I'll be there with Larry, and we're gonna have live support live in person.
We will live support it up big time. We'll have a live.
We'll have a big hangout. It'll be a lot of fun.
I will hold Adam and Gary and Stephanie hostage until they agree to give us stage time.
It's gonna happen live. We're gonna do it live IRL. We always do it live, but we'll do it live IRL.
Anyway, it's been so wonderful to see you again, and I'm sitting here trying to think. Did we have we didn't have a going out?
We had a sign off. We did have a sign off, Larry. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, until next time, folks. Live long and prosper.
Oh yes, and trek well, everybody.